So I thought today it's Mental Health Awareness Month, I think, and then week as well. We thought we'd share our views on just how we do stuff, like how we manage our own like mental. I've called it mental fitness, a way I like to think of it. But yeah, let's just share our thoughts on how we manage it. We obviously do sales roles, the ups and downs with that. We work fully remote. Do you wanna kick us off? How do you?
Sure. And, appreciate, the awesome segment. We're kicking off here at Benton Lewis and really looking forward. And, this is a great first topic, mental health. As you're fully aware, the world has changed since post-pandemic. And, in the wake of it in the pandemic, you have, work styles that have changed, even though you have some return to office, even that component continues to evolve with hybrid. Some of our clients have chosen, what does hybrid look like, or what does a true work from home employee look like? Hopefully we will, throughout this discussion, we'll be able to dive into those areas. I mean, from my perspective, mental health is now at the top of everybody, like every employer's priority list. Employers are faced with rising healthcare costs, economic uncertainty, labor shortages. So we have to really find a way to reduce the cost while driving employee well-being and productivity, right? So for 2023, some of the things that I've done my own research on, and the experiences that I've had, is that there are specific stresses that really capture, the everyday individual. People are facing, challenges at work. They may be facing a personal illness. They may be, changing the health of a family member, maybe losing a loved one, having a procedure, a health procedure, maybe starting a new job, right? Could be very stressful. Maybe they've moved, after COVID, and the economy's changing, and finances are changing. Layoffs are big. Maybe that individual wasn't laid off, but they've seen colleagues that have been impacted post-pandemic, or people are experiencing different financial losses. One of the things that I've definitely seen and I've talked about with different people, and I've had people come over, and we talk about how clients how they're dealing with mental health issues, and they would ask me, well, how are clients dealing with the post-pandemic situation? Mental health, in reality has rose, to the forefront, right, of HR. It's a priority for 2023 and going forward. And us as managers, I think the first thing we need to do is just understand that people are going through things, right? Not just ourselves, but the people report into us, and our leaders as well, right? They're people too, right? So it's kind of like it's multiple layers: leaders, managers, direct reports, and it's at the forefront. And personally, I think when situations have come to me, I like to talk about my cycle of dealing with problems is something called circle of control, right? There are things you can control in your circle, and then there are things that you can't even influence, right? Or maybe dwelling on the past, right?
Yeah.
In reality, what we can do is impact what we do next, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great starting point. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think just touching on leaders and people, I think generally, a lot of people can feel isolated, like they feel like they're the only one going through it. And let me tell you, I had many conversations with leaders over COVID, and it was tough at the top because everyone was looking for them for the answers and for guidance. They were going through this thing for the first time too, and they were struggling. So I think my message is, go speak to people. If you ask for help, you're going to find everyone willing to help and to listen. And to your, to the underlying point about having your people in the backyard and chatting to mates and stuff, like, because it helps. It's good to chat. And I do it often with my friends and stuff. And, guys are never very good at it. We don't like to share our emotions or say we're struggling or going through something. But when you do, it's amazing, because then you're like, it's a weight off your mind. And when someone says, hey man, I'm going through the same thing, or like I remember I was speaking to a group of guys, and we were talking, and everyone had a psychiatrist. Everyone should have a psychologist in their life or whatever, right? So, everyone's going through the same thing. So you're not alone. Leadership can be very lonely. It can be lonely at the top because you don't want to show weakness. People feel it's a sign of weakness. It's not. I think it's human to feel these things. And also I think to say that they're natural emotions. We all go through when it's like feeling positive, feeling down, feeling stressed, feeling anxious. These are all natural human emotions that everyone goes through. And you need to you're going to roll with it, right? Sometimes you're going to be up in the clouds. Sometimes you're going to be in the gutter. That cheesy quote is, we're all in the gutter, but you can choose to look up at the stars or down in the gutter, right? Like, you choose. So that was your point of how you think about stuff, right? You choose how you respond. All these external things that you mentioned earlier on, economy, losing a job, whatever it is, right? Family situations, bad health, the onslaught of grim news from every single media platform apart from ours that you choose to look at. It's just constant, right? So I think you can choose how you behave and stuff. And so I'm quite keen to talk. We talk a little bit about, companies and leaders, prioritizing this. But I think, for me, the big message is you have to take responsibility for yourself and for ownership of what you do, right? And how do you manage yourself, And I think it's got to start with yourself. So I think it'd be good to just talk through that. And for me, there's a whole raft of things that I do to make myself let myself cope with all these things the best way I can, right? And there's like ups and downs in life, ups and downs in business and stuff like that. And for me, I like to call it mental fitness, like I call it physical fitness, because I think you can train yourself and that you can improve yourself and you can help yourself cope with stuff better over time. So like for me, for example, like I do my exercise. I've labor the point all the time, but when I do like a hard workout and I do a lot of running and weights and all of that stuff, it's often the hardest thing I do in the day. And mentally, it makes me cope with the ups and downs of recruiting, a sales job, the wins, the losses, the strikes, the gutters, whatever you want to call it, right? But I just constantly do that, and it helps me. The physical exercise also produces all these cool chemicals in my brain that make me feel positive, the serotonin and da. So all of that stuff is like just wonderful. And I try and treat myself well. It's like good sleep, eat well, physical fitness, stuff like that. And that really helps me. Like, it's just a cornerstone. It helps with my mental health for sure. What about you? Are you doing similar stuff? How are you finding it?
Yeah. You and I've talked extensively about the body being in tune, right? And that, that's your core, right? Staying healthy. And, frankly, one of the things that I've taken on as of the last maybe 45 days, increasing, my cardio, walking 10 miles, for the week, taking initiative of getting back to playing, outdoor sports. And, I love how and I agree with it 100%. If you take care of your body, there was an old saying, and not an old saying, frankly, it's something that I say all the time: mind, body, and soul, right? If your mind is right, your body's right, your soul is right, right? But there's another component that I think it's becoming really, the focus of where mental health is going, is also the family piece, right? Family mental health is now a top priority in the workplace, right? Because when you think about how family impacts the employee or the leader or the
Yeah.
people that are reporting into the managers, right? Most people have sort of a nexus that they call family, whether if it's a good friend, a child, a relative. Family is very critical and important. And also how mental health affects different populations and cultures differently. It's not an equal thing across, different sectors or cultures. LGBTQ deals with mental health differently. Hispanic, low-income employees. There's data out there that talks about how they feel unsupported. There's a whole new world in terms of what mental health is, and then you have even the hybrid employees where they're taking care of most of, and which what we're talking about now. We primarily work remote, so we take care of our mental health. And there are some industries that do a better job than others, but there's a lot more work to be done, right, when it comes to that. But when to your
Yeah.
point, when it comes to taking care of oneself and having that ability to put it on your calendar. If you're going to get some cardio in, block out an hour. I believe when you do your CrossFit, I think you do that, right?
Straight in the diary, like it's the most important meeting of the day.
And I think that's super critical to be able to, like, one of the things that I do, I like to walk away for a few minutes, take a walk. I think taking a 10-minute walk is so critical.
How do you do it? Do you do you work for like half an hour or an hour, and then do you structure it, and then you walk away, then you come back in? How do you do it? Like, I was speaking with one of our colleagues, Gio, and Gio and Annika, two of our colleagues, and they've gone a step further. They have an app that is a plug into the browser, and they do, I think it's 25 minutes of concentrated work. Then they step away for 5 minutes, then they come back in, and then so it's quite interesting. They've really gone quite structured on it. Do you do the same thing, or do you just kind of are you feeling it out? Like, if you need a break, you'll step away? Or
I'm more of a task focused. So, for example, if I'm working on a project, or I'm working on something I need to deliver, or I have I look at my agenda and I get 3 or 4 things done. At the completion of that task, I may step away for 10 minutes. I may step away for 5-10 minutes, take a walk. I have made it, one of the things that managers used to say, you should never, and this is years ago, one of the things, we shouldn't eat at our desk, right? It's something that it's a bad thing to do. You shouldn't eat at your desk. You shouldn't eat while you work. Step away, take that time to think about maybe your day, have your meal, reflect. It's so important. Time for ourselves is so critical. I mean, let's be real. Who can sit, whether if you're in office or you're working from home, how real is it that an individual is going to sit there for 8-9 straight hours and not move?
100%. No, completely. This is the point. You've got to know yourself. Because, like, some people say, hey, I'm a night owl. Hey, I'm a morning person. But it's true. Like physically, like chemically, some people perform better in the morning. Some people perform better in the evening. If you know yourself and you know when you're most productive, then you can find the optimal working scenario for yourself, So yeah, like, don't force yourself to, you're sitting there, what, like some people, like back in the day, right? I say back in the day because we're fully remote, which we'll talk about. But maybe you'd eat like a big lunch, 3 p.m. comes around, and you're like trying to find the matchsticks to keep your eyes open because you're like dropping in energy, and you're like, you're about to fall asleep. You can't leave until like 6 o'clock. The boss is still there, and you're like, oh, you're like really stupid. Yeah, I mean, everyone's nodding now, I'm sure, because it's classic, right? But just understand yourself, and manage your food intake, manage your exercise. If you're not being productive, just step away. Just, or you're more productive in the morning, smash it in the morning.
Yeah.
Or if you're actually better in the evening, great. Or maybe you're doing different time zones and stuff. So you've got to know yourself, I think, is the important point. And I just want to touch on you're mentioning these breaks. And I quite like David Goggins. And if you know David Goggins, he's this ex-military US guy. He's an absolute beast, and he does ultra marathons, and he's amazing. So check him out on Instagram. I've read his book recently as well. He's a motivational speaker, and he's got a great. I watched a great talk from him, and he calls it having. He has mental aid stations. So much like in a run or a marathon, you'll have like the water breaks, right? You'd run a bit, and there's like you have a quick water, you have a quick like few jelly bean babies or whatever to give yourself some energy, and you carry on running, right? So in the work day, think of it as mental aid stations. So like leaving for 5 minutes, going for a walk, or eating breakfast with your kid and
Mhm.
not looking at your phone, or just going to make a cup of coffee or cup of tea, right? It could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But for me, it's like a mental aid station where I'm like quick recharge and then boom, back in the game. And you can have a few of them during the day, and it gives you this little. I think for me, I've been trying it, and it's been great. I kind of do it anyway, but it just having a word for it was quite interesting. It's like, yeah. So anyway, I try that a lot, and it's great. So they're one of my little tips. One other little tip that I got, I did an interview with this guy called Eric Partaker, who's the CEO and founder of a chain of Mexican restaurants in the UK called Chilango's. Recently sold them. And we did a podcast together. And I thought this was awesome. He's got, I think I might have told you the story already. He has 3 alarms he sets in his day, right? So alarm number 1 goes off on his phone. And alarm number 1 comes up, and it reminds him to be the best in the gym that morning, because the guy likes to go to the gym in the morning. 5:30, the alarm goes off. You're going to be an animal in the gym today. It's like, gets in the gym, destroys the gym. Then the alarm goes off at 8:30, and the alarm is, I'm going to be the best CEO today. And it reminds him to be like a caring, incredible leader. And then he gets another alarm at 7 p.m. when he walks in the door, and it's to be the best father and husband. And so I thought that were really cool, right? Because they're like 3 things he wants to do, and then the alarm is just a little trigger, isn't it? And sometimes you need a little trigger, whether it's home life, gym, work, whatever. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'd like to add to that, because I think it's important. I used to have there's a coach of mine that used to say, when that alarm clock goes off in the morning and you get up and you get out of that bed, day's over. You made it. You're up.
Yeah.
You're going, right? And you're started. And, there are a lot of people, and I didn't understand this. I didn't understand this until I got a little older, a little bit more mature in my career, is that you're right. A lot of people can't even make it out, of that phase, right? Some of the conversations that I've had with some people, just peers and, other employees, it's being part of a culture that's really helpful, especially in the remote phase. And you and I will transition, because you and I are fully remote, is that we want to be part of a culture that's supportive, right? Be part of a supportive culture, right? And don't forget, we're parents as well. We've got, a workplace that, I would want it to be, more supportive, around mental health and parenting, right? Have managers that are more empathetic, and then also managers that are mindful, right? You want, it would be great to have mindful managers that are trained to be more self-aware, and having the ability to be able to regulate their emotions and create a less stressful environment, right? Or the manager that's more empathetic. The more empathy, and this is something that I practiced for many years, to be more empathetic, right? Because when you lean in with empathy, naturally more supportive to the situation. And I think that adds to the supportive culture. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I massively agree. And we've had the conversation before, the classic caricature of a manager is tough, a board member, right? You got to stab people in the back, and you got to be aggressive to get to the top, and don't be a pushover. You're smiling because you had the conversation like yesterday or the day before, right?
I did.
But I disagree, right? And maybe back in the day, people mistook empathy, and the kindness is maybe part of that for weakness, but it's such a strength. And I think, yeah, leaning in, being empathetic. I think good cultures, caring about your people, asking them how they're doing, how you're feeling, what can I do to help you and support you. I think as you get to the top now, you go meet folks at the top, and I think they're some of the nicest folks. I mean, obviously it's a generalization, right? But I think, just people want to work with great people, like the work's the work. You could choose where you want to go and do recruiting. And like recruiting's recruiting. But the difference is like who you're doing it with, who your team are, what the environment is. Are they supportive? Are they on at you with a stick, bashing you with, I don't know, I think it's so important. I think it's such a strength. And I think if you want to really get to the top and be a great leader and be the best in your field, I think the empathy and the human skills are massive. And look, like I speak to folks all the time, right, about work. Oh, how did you get there? How did you move there? How did you get that job? How did you get that? So many people say, oh, I followed my manager. Oh, my old boss went to that firm. They took me with them. And I'm like, amazing, right? Because firstly, that like this person or this employee loved that boss so much.
Yeah.
It's not about the company they're working at. It's about the person they're working with. And you must have seen it, I mean, as well, right? All the time. So I think it's massive. And I think good culture, I did a post on this the other day, a bad culture is an employee going to their line manager, can I have a break? No. Can I take some holiday? No. Then the employee saying, hey, I've got to take time off because I'm stressed and I'm sick. A good culture is the manager saying, hey, have you taken a break today? Are you taking regular breaks? Have you booked your holiday yet? Like you got to protect your energy, treat yourself like an athlete. It's a long game, and take regular breaks, take the mental aid breaks, look after yourself, take the holidays. Because you're just going to be way more productive, way happier. I mean, if you even need a business case for being healthy, the longer you're in the game, the more you're going to do. Like, the better you're going to do, right? Like we talk about this in our industry. You just, it's about relationships, about people, right? Our business is about people. And the longer you know people, the more friends you make, and the longer you spend more time with people, the better you do, and all of this kind of stuff. And many industries, it's the same. Like you got to be in it. You got to be on the pitch. There was a study done on some of the top footballers, like soccer, for those that are American, and the stats and stuff. And look, the people that are injury free and are on the pitch playing, they probably do the best because they're playing, right? Practicing, they're playing. So it's the same with this. Like, you want to look after your health, physical health, mental health, diet, all of the above.
Yeah, I agree. And the other one is family health, right? Because it impacts and family health, and it impacts us tremendously. It impacts us on a daily basis. If our families aren't grounded and in a good place, it's going to impact how we show up to work.
Yeah.
Right.
And also just that, like, if you're, if you have a family, as in husband, wife, partner, kids, great. If you don't, create, like, like for me, like I do have a wife and kids, but also like my friends and colleagues. I consider, that my inner circle, like my family. And you want to make sure that, everyone's doing well, and you want to check in with people. And I probably wasn't as good as I should have been on that I'm going to call it COVID again, but COVID really highlighted like the, hey man, how you doing kind of conversation. And I think I'm doing that a lot more than I used to. I'm like making sure I call my friends. I'm like, dude, how you doing? I don't want to be like, oh, how was last year for you? Haven't spoken in 12 months. We're supposed to be best friends. Like time just runs away. So I'm making time to speak to my friends, because some of the old friends are that they know you, like old friends are the best friends kind of thing. It grounds you, they don't let you get carried away. They'll be like, Ed, what are you talking about? Come on, and sometimes you need that, right?
That's right. And it's interesting because you have this whole world that's evolved, right? And I was sending out a meme couple months ago, a little Jetsons meme. It's a cartoon. I think I sent it to Kelly, and where it's a picture of. Do you remember Jetsons the cartoon?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
yeah,
and there
yeah,
was it was 4 boxes, and I think one of the boxes had telework, telemed, video calls, and everything that was on the Jetsons has basically come to fruition. Um, but as the economy and the workforce continues to evolve, there's been a big push, as we know, for companies and our clients to bring people back to the office.
yeah,
But we're starting to see the pendulum swing right back, right? People are going to the office, but what it's created is this whole hybrid and what it means to an organization. Hybrid means something completely different. I think part of my intake meeting is now, well, what's hybrid to you? What's return to the office for your organization, or what's your setup? If can employees work remote? It becomes part of the conversation. And I know we work remote, and the way, I think as we bring it, we bring mental health in. How's the new world of work, from your perspective, for the hybrid employees? How do you think they're taking care? Most of them are taking care of their mental health.
yeah,
Do you think it differs? I mean, I have some differences. We've talked a little bit about them now, but I know pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, there are other mental health concerns that have emerged,
yeah,
including,
yeah.
things like less daily movement, right? More social isolation, loneliness, blurred boundaries between work and life. I mean, essentially, these are
So
the new issues that have arisen.
massively,
Have you noticed any of these?
yeah, all of them. Yeah, loneliness is a big one, massive one. I think for me anyway, like being a leader and stuff, I like to talk about it a lot. Like pre this work from home stuff. It was a little bit like, I think it still was a little bit, like you can't go to one of your colleagues and say, like, probably about time you started going to the gym now, isn't it? You can't really say that. It's like, well, but I think it's good to say to folks and encourage people to look after themselves. Like I think in a nice way, of course, right? So I certainly don't shy away from talking about it a lot. Like I probably over talk about my fitness, and I use myself as an example, as in, oh, I'm going to the gym. Oh, I put CrossFit in my diary, or like I'm doing a fast today, or like I talk about it because I hopefully it encourages other people in our team to talk about it. And I talk about it all the time. So I'm trying to create an environment where like I'm talking about it and other people start talking about it. And we did a group talk yesterday. So a few of us got together on a call, and we all shared tips on how we're coping, and say coping because I know coping is the right word, but how we organize our lives in the best way from working at home, because it worked for some people, doesn't work for others. There's no one size fits all. I think everyone's different. I don't think everyone's suited to our environment. Yeah, and then also I'm a big advocate also for not just relying on your company. Like so much I hear the conversation, oh, it's oh, the company haven't done this, or oh, it's so hard for me because XYZ, right? Come on. Like, just take
Well,
responsibility for yourself,
I
right?
think the
Take
option.
responsibility.
Well, Liz, I think the option. I think this is where the evolution comes into place, right? Or into play. If you look at some of the data, hybrid workers are the most happy and the least stressed. When you look at the data, and empowering the employee to make the decision, I want to be
Yeah,
hybrid or I want to be remote. For those companies that have said return to office, having that balance from being home, for a few days versus being in the office every week consistently. I mean, honestly, the data that I've read is that the hybrid and the remote workers, yeah, sure, there's a miss with the social connection for those that are more remote. the lack of social connectivity. But in the end, the data is showing that employees are more happy,
Well, we
and
have,
employees, they're less anxious. But I would say that if organizations can figure out sort of the balance between social connection, hybrid, and remote, I think they find gold.
yeah. No, I mean, like, we're fully remote, right? So, and we do a lot of stuff. So we've got a digital workplace. So there's a call every day that no one is forced to come onto. But if you go on, you'll find someone. By and large, every day there'll be at least someone, one or two, three people, whatever, to talk to, which is quite nice. Then we do, like, everyone kind of, people are working with different folks, and so there's this interaction thing, and then we do face to face. We do face to face as well every few months, so we have that. But again, I think as an individual, if that's not enough for you, like if you want to go in every day to an office, you've got to choose. And I think it's important for a company to be completely open. So like Elon Musk is an example, right? Like, because Twitter's like kind of other end of the scale to us, right? It's like you come in 24/7, right? In the office 24/7. I bet you know where you stand. So maybe that works for you. Or a bank, right? Banks are classic, or even law firms, long hours, you get paid well, but you sell your soul a little bit. But you know that, and you can choose to do it for a bit. You can choose. So I think for me, like, it's really important when I interview folks to work for us that I'm like, completely, this is what it's like. This is the vibe. This is the culture. Are you going to thrive or not? Like, yourself better than I know you. And this is how we're set up. And it doesn't, I know it doesn't suit everyone. Like, there's some people that want an office. Others, they're better on, working remote and then meeting sometimes. And so I think it's, I don't, it's never going to, it's not a one size fits all. I know that word's used a lot. But I think you have to build a company that works, like, that kind of works for us and the people that are going to join us in the future. Hopefully they'll understand what it's like before they join, and then they'll make a good decision. Do you want to come work here in the best recruiting firm on the planet, or do you want to go? Do you want to go for a company that you can go and sit at a desk next to your colleagues for 5 days a week? I mean,
I think that's right. That's spot on. And in addition, I would say the role matters, right? I think you touched on it. If you're an attorney and you're under another more senior attorney and you're more of an apprenticeship, type of role, I think the role matters in terms of, industry. I think eventually industries will look at every role and say, well, this is a senior person. They work independently. They have very little contact. There were a lot of cases where I would go to the office 3 days a week and I would go and find a conference room, right? And I was basically working majority of the day, on my own, with the exception of when I would step away from my PC, and then I gained the nickname of the mayor of the company, right?
Cruising around.
My past leader, he used to say, Ed, you're the mayor. I can't walk 10 steps without someone saying hello to you. And and it was funny. There was an announcement that was made, and when the announcement was made, it was put on the big screen. He called me the mayor. And, it was a running joke for years because, he was right. Frankly, we would walk a couple of feet and I'd have a conversation. And the one thing he used to say, how do you remember everyone's personal circumstances? Right? He's like, this person's kid, this person, if they were working, they were sick like a year ago, or like you remember all their circumstances. I just say, just take a few minutes and you care about people.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's it.
And it's that part of that empathy again, right? it doesn't necessarily mean that someone was in my group. It was just something that I did on a daily basis, right? Just stop, have a conversation, learn about someone's, it doesn't always have to be about work, right?
Yeah.
For those
Yeah.
few minutes that you stop someone in the hallway. And I get that's the synergy that remote, they say, has lost, right? But you can still do that if you're more deliberate in your activity. For example, if you meet with your people like you're outlining constantly, consistently throughout the week, and you set a timetable where we can show up. And I agree. I think I've shown up to at least 85% of those morning calls. And there's always someone there for a discussion, for a conversation. And 90% of the time, it's not a conversation about work. It's about, how are you? How's your day? How was your evening? It's small talk, right? If you create that environment, but you have to be able to do the things that are more deliberate. I think it's absolutely possible to post-pandemic create that stickiness, that synergy, even in a remote environment.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, people talk about the water cooler moments. I mean, we have like, so you're right, we do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's, again, none of them are compulsory, but it's unstructured chat. Thursday we do a download session, so that is focused about everyone sharing what they're up to, so everyone kind of knows what everyone's doing and stuff. And then Friday we do a little quiz, which again is not compulsory. So yeah, it's good. It evolves, but it's always there in the diary, and we have a fully remote thing, which is great. And then we do like a European meetup every couple of months, US every few months, global one we do once a year, you know, and then we get our fix of humans every day, because I mean, our business is people. So you know, we are having conversations and videos, and people are meeting people in their city. So we do get like a, you know, it isn't like hardcore concentrated work, sitting at your desk for 12 hours a day on that, you know what I mean? Like you can get, like it's quite, you know, it's chats, it's out. So it's, you know, you get that from doing what we do. Cool. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great one, everyone.